My name is Sarah. I am 11 years old. Last summer, my mom went to Europe for a whole month. She left me with only a crumpled $20 bill. See, you're a grown-up now, she said with a big smile, pulling her suitcase toward the door. You're not a baby anymore. Just order food if you need to. Okay, grown-up. Those were her words, not mine. I looked at the $20 in my hand. No plan, no babysitter, not even a real goodbye. Just a quick kiss on my head, the sound of her suitcase rolling away and the front door closing. I'll be fine, I said loudly to the empty hall. I hoped saying it would make it true. But my hands were shaking. No one else was home, no one to cook, no one even knew I was all alone. I tried to pretend this was a game I could win. Day one, I told myself, I'll show I can do this. I lined up the few cans in the cupboard. I checked the fridge, which was already pretty empty. I pushed my fear deep down. If my mom thought I was a grown-up, then maybe she should see what that really meant. Because as that month went by, the $20 would be gone. The food would run out, and the quiet house would feel even scarier and sadder. When they finally came back, my mom saw what was inside our home and whispered, No, this can't be happening. Do you want to know how being left with $20 at 11 years old made my mom regret everything she did? Stay until the end, and you'll see how I made sure she would never forget it. The first problem happened about 10 minutes after the taxi left. My mom had thrown a shiny emergency credit card on the counter, like that would fix everything. But there was a trick. It wasn't turned on, and I didn't know the secret number. I found that out the hard way. I stood at the door with my phone, trying to order food. Every app kept saying no to the card. So it was just me, a card that didn't work, and $20. On day one, I made it a game. I cut bread super thin. I spread peanut butter so carefully it barely covered the bread. I told myself real survivors make things last. I even joked in my head that this would be a good story someday. By day 3, it wasn't funny anymore. The cupboard looked like a picture from a TV show about hungry people. There were a couple of cans I didn't know how to open without cutting myself, a box of cereal with more air than food, and a jar of pickles I hated. My tummy growled so loud I felt embarrassed, even though no one was there. I tried to stop thinking about it. I turned on the TV and let different shows play. The noise filled the room so I didn't have to hear the house make creaking sounds. I opened my mom's computer and stared at her work emails, piled up like they were more important than anything. At one point, I grabbed my notebook. I wrote in big letters at the top of a page, "Evidence." Under it, I wrote, "Left alone at 11, $20, no food plan, no one checking in." I didn't know exactly what I would do with that, but writing it down made something inside me change. If they thought I was old enough to be alone, then I was old enough to remember everything, to write everything down, to show someone someday how they chose a trip over me. I picked up my phone and opened the video app. Day 3, I said softly to the camera. My face looked smaller than I expected. I'm still alone. The card doesn't work. I ate the last good thing in the fridge yesterday. I stopped and swallowed. If you're seeing this, it means someone finally asked what happened to me. I saved the video clip and locked my phone. My heart was beating fast. Part of me hoped no one would ever see it. Another part of me wanted that video to make my mom really mad when she came home. I thought about my best friend, Emma. I looked at her name on my phone. If I texted her, I'd have to tell her my mom left me, that I was hungry, that I wasn't okay. Instead, I sent a message that sounded normal. "How was your trip?" No answer. Maybe she was at a lake, eating burgers with her family, not even looking at her phone. My stomach felt funny. By day 5, the hunger felt like a cloud in my head. I started to feel dizzy if I stood up too fast. I found a half-empty box of cereal in the back of the cupboard. I ate it dry from the bag, trying to make each handful last. I opened my notebook again and added another line. By day 5, still no call from Mom, not even a text. Then another line. If I disappear, this will prove it wasn't my fault. That was when my thinking changed. This wasn't just about staying alive until she came back. This was about what would happen to her when people found out what she had done. On day 7, my body felt weak, but my anger was stronger. I walked slowly to the front window and looked out at the street. Kids were riding bikes. A dog barked at a truck. A couple walked by holding coffee cups. Normal lives, normal parents. I looked at our empty driveway and whispered, "You chose Europe over me. Do you know what that's going to cost you when someone finds out?" As if the world was listening, the doorbell rang. I froze. Cereal crumbs were still on my fingers. No one ever really rang our doorbell. Kids from next door just knocked. Packages were left on the step. The bell rang again, then 3 loud knocks. My heart pounded as I moved toward the door. For a second, I thought about pretending I wasn't home. If it was someone selling something, they would leave. But another thought cut through my fear. What if this is it? What if this is when someone finally sees me? My hand shaking, I reached for the handle. If you were 11, starving, and all alone, would you open that door? Or would you keep pretending everything was fine? I opened the door just enough to see who was there. Standing on the porch was a man in a green jacket with my school's symbol on it. It took me a second to know him without the classroom. "Hi, Sydney," he said kindly. "It's Mr. Hughes, the counselor from school. I've been trying to call your parents. They didn't answer. Can I come in for a moment?" My first thought was to lie, to say everything was okay, that my parents were just out, that I didn't need anything. But my hand let go of the door. I stepped back. "Sure," I whispered. "I guess." He stepped inside and looked around. The quiet in the house suddenly felt heavier. The dirty dishes in the sink, the empty counter, the fruit bowl that was almost bare, all became proof I hadn't meant to show but had accidentally left out. "Are your parents at work?" he asked, looking around, clearly expecting someone to appear. "They're in Europe," I said, surprised at how plain my voice sounded. "For a month," his eyebrows went up. "A month, and who is staying with you?" I swallowed. This was the moment. I could choose to protect them or tell the truth. My fingers squeezed the edge of my shirt tighter. "Just me," I said. "They said I was old enough." Something in his face changed, like a light switch flipped. The kind worry turned into something sharper, more serious. He pulled out a chair and sat at the table, telling me to sit across from him. "Sydney, how long have you been alone?" "A week," I whispered. "Almost." "Do you have enough food money?" I let out a small, mean laugh I didn't recognize. "They left me a credit card that doesn't work and $20. He stared at me for a long time. It wasn't the way teachers stare when you forget your homework. It was something heavier, like he was trying to count all the ways this was wrong. "This is not okay," he said finally, his voice quiet. "You know that, right?" I shrugged, even though my chest hurt. They said they needed a break, that I'm grown up, that I should be able to handle it. "And how have you been handling it?" I wanted to say, fine. I wanted to keep pretending. But the notebook on the table caught my eye. The word evidence stared back at me in my own handwriting. "I've been hungry," I said instead, "and scared. And I've been writing things down just in case." "Just in case what?" he asked. "Just in case something happens to me," I replied quietly. "So nobody can say they didn't know." Silence filled the space between us. For a moment I hated the quiet. But then I realized he wasn't ignoring it. He was feeling it, really feeling it. He leaned forward. "Sydney, leaving an 11-year-old alone for a week, for a month, with almost no food and no one to watch over them isn't just not smart. It's dangerous. It's neglect. There are laws about this." My heart thumped in my ears. Neglect. Laws. Words that sounded like they belonged in TV shows, not in my kitchen. "What happens if someone finds out?" I asked, my voice suddenly small. "People called agencies get involved," he said carefully. "Child Protective Services. There could be an investigation. Your parents could face serious trouble." There it was, the thing I hadn't dared to say out loud, the thing that made my anger twist into something sharper. "Trouble," I repeated slowly, "for what they did to me." He didn't rush to make me feel better or tell me I was overreacting. Instead, he nodded. "For what they did to you." My mind raced. I imagined my mom's face when she came home to find strangers in our living room. People asking questions she couldn't avoid with a fake smile and a joke about being a grown-up. I pictured her seeing my notebook, my video clips, my empty food cupboard. "Do you want help, Sydney?" Mr. Hughes asked quietly. "Real help, not just food. The kind of help that makes sure this never happens again." I paused. Part of me wanted to say no, to close the door on all of this and just wait for my parents to come back and pretend this month never happened. Another part of me, the part that had been writing the word evidence, was tired of pretending. "Yes," I said finally. "But if I say yes, what does that mean for them?" "It means they'll have to answer for their choices," he said. "It means grown-ups will finally see what you've been going through." I looked down at my hands, then back at him. "Then help me," I said. "I want them to see exactly what they did. I want them to feel what it's like to lose control." He nodded once firmly. "First, we make sure you're safe. Then we make sure the right people hear your story." As he reached for his phone, a strange calm came over me. The fear was still there, but under it was something new, a quiet, strong feeling. I wasn't just a kid waiting to be saved anymore. I was the witness. "If you were in my place, would you keep protecting your parents? Or would you finally let the truth be the weapon they never saw coming?" Mr. Hughes stepped into the hallway to make a call. I stayed at the table with my notebook open. I could hear parts of his voice, low and calm, but the words that floated back to me were enough to make my heart beat fast. "Alone, 11, no grown-up, no food in the house." I traced the ink on the page with my finger. "Evidence!" Suddenly, it didn't feel like a secret diary anymore. It felt like a police file. A few minutes later, he came back. "I called your neighbor, Mrs. Johnson," he said. "And I also spoke with someone from the Child Protection Hotline. They're going to send someone to check on you. But first, we need to get you something to eat." My cheeks felt hot at the idea of people checking on me like I was a broken toy. But I also felt something else, a small bit of happiness. If they were checking on me, that meant they were also checking on my parents. "Is Mrs. Johnson mad?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, she's worried. That's what good neighbors do." A knock sounded at the door, softer than his earlier one. Mrs. Johnson stepped inside. Her eyes looked me over from head to toe, then landed on my notebook, the empty cereal box on the counter, and my pale face. "Oh, Sydney," she whispered. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" "Because I didn't want to look weak," I blurted out. "They always tell me I'm grown up, that I can handle things. I thought asking for help meant I was proving them wrong." Her face softened. "Asking for help isn't weakness. It's how you survive. And sometimes it's the only way to make grown-ups face what they do." That last sentence hit me like a bell. Make adults face what they do. We all sat down together. For the first time, I didn't feel like a kid being talked over. They asked me to tell them everything, and I did. I told them about the suitcase rolling out the front door, the $20, the card that didn't work, the way my mom laughed when I asked who would be staying with me. "You'll be fine. You're my little adult," she had said, like it was a good thing. As I talked, Mrs. Johnson's jaw got tight. Mr. Hughes wrote notes on a pad he had taken from his bag. "Can we show them this?" I asked, pointing to my notebook. "When they come, the people from the hotline." "Yes," he said. "In fact, I want you to keep writing what you felt, what you ate, when you tried to call them, everything you remember." "So they can't twist it later," I mumbled. "So they can't say I'm making it bigger than it is." "Exactly," he replied. "You are allowed to protect yourself with the truth." The words made my chest feel tight. Protect myself with the truth. That sounded a lot like revenge, and I realized I didn't hate that feeling. Later, when the caseworker arrived, she said hello and asked to look around the house. I watched her eyes look at the almost empty fridge, the trash can with only a few wrappers, the credit card that didn't work on the counter. She didn't have to say anything. Her face said it all. "How long have your parents been gone?" she asked gently. 7 days, I answered. "They planned a month." "And who checks on you?" "No one until today." "Do they call?" "Not since the airport," I said. She sent a selfie from Paris with a heart emoji. That was it. The case worker nodded slowly. Then she turned to Mr. Hughes and Mrs. Johnson. "Thank you for calling us," she said. As they talked, I snuck away for a second. I set up my phone on the counter and opened the video app again. I recorded a quiet video of the empty fridge, the lonely table, the case worker's bag on the chair. "This is what our house looked like when they finally noticed I was alone," I said into the camera. "This is what my mom will walk into when she comes back." When I was done, I put my phone in my pocket. The video was safe. I wasn't just staying alive anymore. I was collecting proof. The case worker came back to me. "For now, you will not be alone again," she said. "We are arranging for you to stay with Mrs. Johnson while we talk to your parents and figure out what to do next." I looked at my neighbor. She smiled softly and squeezed my shoulder. "Is that okay with you, Sydney?" the caseworker asked. I thought about my empty house, the long, quiet nights, the way my mom's last message was about bread instead of me. Then I thought about something else. What it would do to my parents when they came home and found not just a lonely kid, but an official report waiting for them. "Yes," I said. "I want to stay somewhere I'm not invisible." That night, as I packed a small bag of clothes and my notebook, I looked around my room one more time. The posters on my wall, the stuffed animal on my bed, the window that looked out at the street. "This was the place you left," I whispered, imagining my mom hearing it later. "But it's not the place you'll find when you come back." If you were me, would you choose to forgive and forget? Or would you let every empty shelf and unanswered call become proof that could change everything? Moving next door should have felt like nothing. Just a few steps across the grass. But carrying my small bag and my notebook into Mrs. Johnson's house felt like crossing a line I could never go back over. I wasn't just the kid in the middle anymore. I was the kid someone had chosen to protect. Her house smelled like clean clothes and vanilla. The table was set with placemats. Her fridge was full of real food, not just little bits stuck to the sides of shelves. My stomach growled before I could stop it. "We'll fix that first," she said, pretending not to notice I was embarrassed. "Come on, let's cook together." We walked back to my kitchen with shopping bags. This time she didn't just grab food randomly. She let me choose. Pasta, sauce, vegetables, bread, fruit, things that would last, things that made the kitchen look like someone actually lived there. "Keep the receipts," Mr. Hughes said quietly as we put away the bags. "They show what wasn't here before today." So we put the receipts in my notebook, behind the pages where I had written about being hungry. Evidence. Layer by layer, as we cooked, the sound of boiling water and sizzling garlic felt like something I had missed without knowing it. "Have you ever made spaghetti from scratch like this?" Mrs. Johnson asked. "Not really," I admitted. "My mom mostly heats up food in the microwave or we order takeout." "Then today you learn," she said with a smile. "You learn how to feed yourself properly. Nobody can take that away from you." I stirred the sauce, watching the red swirl in the pan. It felt like something important, like all the anger and hurt inside me was finally going somewhere, turning into something I could use. While we waited for the pasta, the case worker came back with more questions. She asked for my mom's messages, the time of her flight, the last time she called. I showed her the one selfie with the Eiffel Tower in the background and the words, "finally free for a month." "Free from what?" the caseworker asked. I stared at the screen. "From me, I guess." She wrote something down. I didn't ask what. I didn't need to. "Do you want to say anything directly to your parents?" she asked. "We sometimes put what kids say in our reports." For a second, my throat felt tight. Then I felt my notebook pressing against my arm where I held it, and my answer came out clear. "Yes," I said. "I want them to know exactly what this felt like." We sat at the table and I wrote while the spaghetti cooked. "You said I was grown up enough to be alone," I wrote. "But being grown up doesn't mean I don't need food. It doesn't mean I don't get scared. You told everyone how hard you work, but you didn't notice when your own kid was counting crumbs." I stopped, took a breath, and kept going. "By the time you read this, other grown-ups will have already seen what you did. They will have seen the empty fridge, the card that didn't work, the notebook where I had to write down how you neglected me. If there are consequences, they aren't because I betrayed you. They are because you left me." When I finished, I slid the paper toward the caseworker. "Can you make sure they see this?" "I can," she said, "and I will." Later that evening, I sat at Mrs. Johnson's table, twirling spaghetti around my fork. The first bite almost made me cry. It was warm and real, and tasted like something I hadn't felt in a long time. Safety. This is what normal is supposed to feel like, I thought, not sitting alone on the floor eating dry cereal from a box. Mr. Hughes stayed for dinner. We talked about school, books, and even silly things like the worst lunch food we'd ever had. For an hour, I almost forgot that my life was technically falling apart in the house next door. But when the plates were clean and the grown-ups started talking quietly in the living room, I heard parts of their talk. Words like temporary place to stay, investigation, and possible taking away of custody. I didn't fully understand every legal word, but I understood the feeling behind them. My parents had treated my being gone like a break from being responsible. Now, there was a real chance they could lose the right to even be called my parents. Back in the guest room where I would sleep, I set my phone up one more time and hit record. Day 7, but it's different now, I said softly into the camera. I'm not in my house, I'm somewhere safe. People know, they saw the truth. I looked straight at my own face in the camera. If you're my mom watching this, I continued, I want you to remember something. You always said actions have consequences, that if I messed up, I'd have to face them. This time it's your turn. This isn't just my story. It's your choice, written in real time. I stopped the recording and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. My heart wasn't light. It hurt. I still missed the idea of parents who would have stayed. But I also knew something else now. I wasn't powerless. Maybe one act of kindness really could change everything. But would it be enough to fix a whole life of being second place to work and trips? Or would it simply give me the strength to walk away from them for good when the time came? The days at Mrs. Johnson's house felt weird at first, like I had accidentally stepped into someone else's family. I woke up to the smell of breakfast instead of the sound of my own tummy rumbling. There was always someone asking how I slept, not just thinking I was fine. For the first time in a long time, I didn't have to prove I was a grown-up every second just to be okay. But even with the nice feeling, there was a clock counting down in the background. Every grown-up around me knew it. I knew it, too. At some point, my parents would have to come back. At some point, they would have to walk into everything they left behind. On the second night, my phone buzzed while I was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. A number I knew popped up on the screen. My mom's work phone. I stared at it until the screen started to get dark. "Aren't you going to answer?" Mrs. Johnson asked gently. My fingers shook. What if she's just calling to yell at me for messing up her trip? "Then you'll know exactly where you stand," she said calmly. "But you don't have to talk to her alone." I hit accept and put the phone on speaker. "Sydney." Her voice was sharp through the phone, not worried. "What is going on? Why is there some woman from Child Services emailing me about an investigation? Why is your school involved? Do you have any idea what this looks like for me?" There it was. No, are you okay? No, are you safe? Just what this looks like for me. I swallowed. "They are involved because you left me," I said. My voice shook, but I got the words out. "You went to Europe for a month. You left me alone with $20 and a credit card that didn't work. They saw the house. They saw the fridge. They saw everything." "You're making it bigger than it is," she said quickly. "There was plenty of food. You know how dramatic you can be. And you're 11, not a baby. I can't believe you would turn people against us like this. Do you understand what you're doing to our reputation?" Across the table, I saw Mrs. Johnson's jaw get tight. She leaned closer so her voice would be heard. "This is Mrs. Johnson. I'm the neighbor. I'm also the one who bought your daughter groceries because there was almost nothing left. This is not about reputation. It's about safety." There was a sharp gasp on the other end. "Why are you getting involved? This is a family matter. Sydney is fine." I looked at the notebook next to me, open to a page where I had written no call for 7 days. "No," I said quietly, cutting in before anyone else could. "I was not fine. I am not fine with what you did." There was a pause, and for a quick second I thought maybe she would finally hear me. Then she spoke again, each word pushed out through tight teeth. "We will talk about this when we get back, and we are going to have a serious talk about consequences, young lady." The phone went dead. Mrs. Johnson reached over and turned off the phone before it could buzz again. "She is right about one thing," she said softly. "There will be consequences, but not just for you." The next day, the case worker came to the school and took me out of class. We sat in a small office that smelled like dry erase markers and old coffee. She was looking at something on her tablet. "Your parents have changed their flight," she told me. "They will be home in 3 days instead of 3 weeks." My heart did a flip. Part of me was happy they weren't staying gone for the full month. Another part of me knew why. They weren't coming back for me. They were coming back to protect themselves. "What happens when they get here?" I asked. "We will meet them at the house," she said. "I will be there, along with a boss from the department. Mr. Hughes has agreed to come as someone from the school. We want you to be part of the talk if you feel safe." I thought about hiding at Mrs. Johnson's house and letting the grown-ups handle it. I thought about sneaking into my room and pretending I was asleep when they walked in. Both choices felt like going back to being invisible. "No," I said slowly. "I want to be there. I want them to see me. I want them to see what they came home to." The caseworker nodded. "Then we will make sure you have a voice in that room." For the next 2 days, we got ready without calling it getting ready. We didn't practice what to say like a school play. Instead, we organized the facts. The caseworker printed copies of what I wrote, the notes from my notebook she had permission to use, the receipts from the groceries, pictures of my mom's posts from Europe, the call logs that showed how many times she hadn't checked in. "This isn't about punishing them just to punish them," she reminded me. "This is about making sure you are safe. Whatever happens comes from their choices, not your existence." I understood what she meant. But another part of me, the part that remembered eating dry cereal in the dark, couldn't pretend this didn't feel like something else, too. It felt like justice. It felt like holding up a mirror to them. On the morning of their return, we went back into my house for the first time in days. It still smelled a little like old air and dust. My stomach twisted, but I made myself walk through each room. This was my scene. I couldn't look away. The caseworker placed a thick folder on the kitchen table. Next to it, we put my notebook, open to the first page that said evidence. My phone sat next to it, turned on and ready. The first video I had recorded, the one where I said, "Day 3, I'm still alone," was paused on the screen. The picture of my own tired face stared back at me. "Are you sure you want this playing when they arrive?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "She always tells me stories don't matter unless there's proof. This is my proof." Mrs. Johnson stood by the doorway, arms crossed but with kind eyes. Mr. Hughes leaned against the counter, his school badge neatly clipped to his shirt, watching everything carefully. The boss from the department sat at the table, looking through the file one more time. We heard the car before we saw it. Tires on the driveway, doors slamming shut, quiet laughing. For a moment, my legs felt wobbly. The caseworker stepped closer to me. "Remember, you don't have to protect them from the truth anymore," she said. "If they try to make you feel guilty, you can look at me or at Mrs. Johnson or at Mr. Hughes. You are not alone in this room." I nodded, taking a deep breath. The front door handle turned. The lock clicked. This was it. The moment everything split into before and after. If you were standing where I was, would you run to hug them and pretend nothing happened? Or would you stand your ground and let them finally face what they had done? The door swung open, and my mom walked in first. She dragged her suitcase behind her, just like when she left. She was still wearing a fancy coat and sunglasses on her head, like the airport was just another fashion show. My dad followed, carrying bags and talking about something on his phone. His voice was light, like the world should always be easy for him. They both stopped when they saw us. My dad's laughter died. My mom's smile froze halfway. Her eyes jumped from the stranger at the table to Mr. Hughes by the counter to Mrs. Johnson near the door, and finally to me, standing next to the open notebook and glowing phone. "What is this?" she demanded, dropping her suitcase handle. "What are all of you doing in my kitchen?" The supervisor stood up calmly. "Mrs. Carter, Mr. Carter, my name is Ms. Lopez from Child Protective Services. Please have a seat. We need to discuss the situation regarding your daughter, Sydney." My mom didn't sit. She stared at me instead, her eyes hard. "Sydney, what did you tell them?" For a second, the old feeling kicked in. The one that made me want to shrink, say sorry, change the story to make her less mad. But the video on the phone caught my eye, that smaller, tired version of me on day 3. I lifted my chin. "I told them what happened," I said. "I told them the truth." My dad tried to make things better. He put his bags down and forced a laugh. There has clearly been a misunderstanding. We left her with food, with money, with a credit card. She's a very grown-up 11-year-old. She knows how to take care of herself. Kids these days are more able than people think. The supervisor placed a printed sheet on the table and turned it toward them. "This is the activation record for your card," she said. "It was never set up with a PIN. It was rejected many times when Sydney tried to use it." She tapped another page. "These are photos taken of your refrigerator and pantry 1 week into your trip. The amount of food was not enough for a child alone, and several items had already expired." My mom finally sat, more from shock than wanting to. "Expired food doesn't mean she was starving," she snapped. "We were only gone a week so far. We checked in." The supervisor slid another paper forward. "These are your call and message logs. 1 photo from the airport, 1 selfie from Paris. No direct check-ins, no calls asking if she had eaten, if she was safe, if anyone was staying with her." My dad's face turned pale. He looked at the logs, then at me. "We told you to order food, Sydney. We trusted you." "You trusted me to stay alive," I said quietly. "You didn't trust yourselves to be parents." Mrs. Johnson stepped forward, unable to hold back. "She was dizzy from hunger when we found her. She said she didn't come to me because she didn't want to disappoint you by needing help. Do you have any idea what kind of lesson that is for a child?" My mom looked between us, her eyes getting narrow. "This is getting blown way out of proportion. Maybe she was a little dramatic with her notes. She likes to write." The supervisor nodded once at me, then at my phone. "Sydney, are you comfortable showing them what you recorded?" My hands shook slightly as I reached for the phone. I tapped play. The room filled with my own small voice from days earlier. "Day 3, the past me said on screen. "I'm still alone. The card doesn't work. I ate the last good thing in the fridge yesterday. If you're seeing this, it means someone finally asked what happened to me." The camera showed our kitchen, catching the almost empty shelves, the lonely box of cereal, the silent room. My mom slapped a hand over her mouth. My dad stared, his shoulders dropping. "No," my mom whispered, stepping back like the pictures were pushing her. "No, this can't be happening." But it was, and this time she couldn't scroll past it or laugh it off. The supervisor folded her hands. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, based on our investigation, school reports, neighbor testimony, and Sydney's own proof, we have decided that leaving her alone under these conditions counts as neglect under state law. Starting right now, there will be an emergency order. Sydney will not be returning to being alone with either of you until a full meeting is held." My mom shook her head hard. "You can't take my child from me over a misunderstanding. We just needed a break. Do you know how hard we work? Do you know what kind of stress we are under?" I took a breath and stepped forward. "I know," I said. "You tell everyone how hard you work. You tell your friends, your coworkers, your social media. But when I was alone, hungry, and scared, you didn't tell anyone about that. You didn't tell anyone where I was." Her eyes filled with tears. "Sydney, you don't understand. Grown-ups need time away, too. We thought you would be fine. We didn't mean to hurt you." The words I had heard my whole life echoed in my head. Every time I forgot a chore, every time I made a mistake, she would say them with a cold finality. "Actions have consequences, Sydney." So I said them back. "You always told me that actions have consequences," I said, my voice steady. "You taught me that if I made a choice, I had to live with what came next. This is what you taught me. This is what your choice looks like." The room went quiet. My mom looked like the ground had disappeared beneath her. My dad gripped the back of a chair like it was the only thing keeping him standing. The supervisor spoke again. "You will have the chance to take parenting classes, see a psychologist, and have visits with Sydney that are watched if the court agrees." She said, "This is not about punishing you forever. It is about making sure that Sydney is safe and that this never happens again." My mom turned back to me, tears now flowing. "Sydney, please," she begged. "Tell them you want to come home. Tell them we can fix this. We can start over. We can be better." I wanted to. A part of me, the part that still remembered bedtime stories and holiday decorations, wanted to go back to how things were. But another part of me, the part that had spent nights recording videos in the dark, knew that going back without change would mean saying none of it mattered. "I want to be safe," I said. I want to be somewhere I am seen before I disappear. Right now, that is not with you." Her face crumpled like paper. My dad looked away, blinking fast. The supervisor placed a form on the table. "For as long as the investigation lasts, Sydney will stay in a temporary home with Mrs. Johnson," she said. "You will be told the court date. Until then, you are not to talk to her directly without going through our office." "You're taking her side over her own parents," my mom whispered. "No," I said softly. "They are finally taking my side." For once, we left the house before they did. As I stepped out onto the porch, I heard my mom crying inside. My dad was trying to make her feel better with words that sounded weak even from far away. Walking back across the grass to Mrs. Johnson's house, I felt both heavy and strangely light. I hadn't ruined my family. They had done that themselves when they chose a month of freedom over a kid who still counted on them to come home every night. All I had done was refuse to hide it. Weeks later, at the hearing, I sat in a room that smelled like paper and old carpet. Lawyers talked about risks and safe places to live. My parents looked smaller than I remembered, sitting at their table, listening as people described their choices like proof in a court case. My videos were put into the official record. My notebook pages were copied. My own voice on the witness stand didn't shake as much as I thought it would. In the end, the judge ordered that they could only visit me if someone was watching and that they had to go to special classes. Full control over me stayed out of their reach for now. They didn't go to jail. It wasn't like a big movie moment, but it was more real and, in a way, sharper. They lost the automatic right to be in my life without someone watching. They lost the idea that they were the good guys. That summer, I learned how to cook more than spaghetti. I learned that asking for help wasn't being weak, and that telling the truth could be the strongest kind of revenge there is. Not yelling, not breaking things, but simply refusing to let what happened stay a secret. My mom still sends messages sometimes. Long letters about how much she has changed, how sorry she is, how much she wants things to go back to normal. Maybe someday we will find a way for things to be normal that doesn't forget what happened. Maybe we won't. But I know this. The day she came home from Europe expecting a month of stories and gifts, she walked into something she never saw coming. A daughter who had turned every empty shelf, every unanswered call, every hungry night into proof. A room full of grown-ups who finally listened. A truth she couldn't talk her way out of. And when she whispered, "No, this can't be happening," I realized something important. It already had. It had been happening from the moment she chose a plane ticket over me. "So tell me, if you were 11 and left alone with $20 while your parents chased their freedom, would you bury the story to keep their image clean? Or would you do what I did and let the truth be the revenge they never expected?"